I'm the kind of person who watches those messy relationship stories online and swears I'd never be that girl. The girl who throws away a steady, decent man for something shiny and stupid. The girl who thinks she's clever because she knows how to delete a text thread and keep her phone on Do Not Disturb at dinner. The girl who calls it space when it's really secrecy and self-care when it's really selfishness. I wish I could tell you that what happened to me was some crazy misunderstanding, that I was tricked or trapped or swept away by circumstances, but the truth is uglier. I did this. And I did it with my eyes open, because for a little while I liked being the villain in my own life more than I liked being the wife who showed up on time with the right side dish and remembered to thaw chicken. Evan and I were married 4 years. If you met him, you would assume I had won the lottery of men. He's not flashy. No big speeches, no dramatic gestures. But he's the person who knows the right socket to fix the lamp that's been flickering for a week, who keeps the car registrations current, who knows my sister's birthday and texts her before I remember. He's a senior analyst at a healthcare company and keeps numbers in his head, like other people keep playlists. Everyone calls him dependable. I used to call him my anchor. Somewhere along the way, anchors started to feel like weight. I work in brand partnerships, which is a dressed-up way of saying I'm a connector and a talker, and if a room feels dead, I can make it hum. We'd just signed a new contract with a fitness tech company, and their lead on the project was a man named Rafe. If you're rolling your eyes at the name, you should. Rafe looked like the algorithm pulled trouble and charisma and gems that serve craft espresso into one body. He wasn't my type, not really. Too loud, too shiny, too proud of his shoulders. But he was charming, and he noticed me. He didn't notice the efficient, competent version of me the way clients usually do. He noticed when I tucked a strand of hair behind my ear twice during a pitch because I was nervous. He noticed my habit of biting the inside of my cheek while thinking. He noticed me like I was a story he wanted to keep reading. The first time I laughed too hard at one of his jokes, it felt like yanking a thread on a sweater. The first coffee turned into a drink. The first drink turned into a late Uber ride where my phone pinged Evan. Want me to heat up dinner? And I typed, "Don't wait up," with a kiss emoji that felt like a lie and also a test. He wrote back a heart. I typed another lie, something about an executive running over the meeting, and sat there while Rafe said he liked risky people because they didn't calcify. I remember the way the bar lights made everything look warmer than it was. I told myself it was nothing. I told myself I was still a good person. I told myself Evan liked routine and I liked a little bit of sky. People think cheating starts with a kiss. It doesn't. It starts with permissions you grant yourself. It starts with I haven't felt seen lately. It starts with I deserve something fun. You begin collecting reasons the way kids collect stones at the beach. Heavy, smooth, easy to put in your pocket. I started wearing a lip gloss Evan once that made me look like I'd just eaten honey whenever I knew I'd see Rafe. I left my phone face down on the counter at home out of respect for boundaries. I suddenly had client dinners on Tuesdays. I became a woman who used commas in her lies. The dinner ran long. I'll explain tomorrow, love you. To make them look neat. The first time I crossed the line was at a hotel bar in a city that pretends it's more glamorous than it is. We were both there for a conference. We ate overpriced sushi and drank cocktails with shaved ice and herbs no one needed. I told myself it was a story that didn't count because it was far from my living room. I wish I could say I felt sick afterward. I didn't. I felt chosen. And that's the part I hate admitting most. I came home to Evan making pancakes on a Sunday like he always did, the kitchen full of the small, generous noises of a person who loves you quietly. Electric griddle hum, cabinet opening, his whistling a tune without words. I hugged him longer than usual because guilt dresses up as affection when it wants to feel noble. He said, "You okay?" And I kissed his shoulder and said, "I missed you," and put my face in the space where his neck meets his collar because it felt familiar and safe and raw all at once. Cheating is logistics as much as it is lust. It's car washes to remove glitter from a bar you shouldn't have gone to. It's debating whether to start wearing a different perfume or the same one always, because any change can be suspicious. It's learning how long it takes to get from the office to the gym to the hotel and back where the cameras are in your lobby. Which days your doorman is chatty. It's the clock all the time. My phone became a chessboard. Messages moved to archive threads. Photos lived in the Notes app, then a locked album. I told myself I was clever because no one had taught me to be careful. Like this was a skill I could be proud of. If you're reading this and nodding because you've done it too, I'm not judging you. I'm telling you the truth. The skill you're proud of becomes the shovel you use to dig your own hole. Evan noticed. I know now he noticed almost from the beginning. Not because he's the snooping type, but because he is the noticing type. He never looks at a single tree. He looks at the shape of the forest. I used to love that about him, that he sees patterns. He once fixed a squeak in our bed frame, because he could hear it. The frequency was different on humid days and figured out where the wood was rubbing. Who does that? Evan does. So when my Tuesday dinners turned into Tuesdays and Thursdays, he logged the delta. When my phone face down became a rule instead of a habit, he logged the variable. When I started wearing a honey gloss on Wednesdays, he logged the signal. He didn't ask me anything. He didn't confront me with a half-formed accusation. He didn't make a scene in our kitchen while I sliced cucumbers and acted domesticated. He was careful with me the way you're careful with the teacup you've already chipped. He made space and let me fill it with whatever I chose, because he wanted to see what shape I'd take. That's how he is. Before he pushes a button, he wants to know exactly what it does. I had clues and ignored them. A week after the hotel bar night, a small silver circle appeared in my luggage lining, an error tag. It was mine. I used it when I traveled so I wouldn't lose my suitcase. I assumed I must have tossed it in and forgotten. I took it out, put it in my purse, and did not think about it. Later, I realized that's how negligence looks. Like a shrug. Another time, our shared iPad, the one I never used, was on the coffee table, charging. I moved it to the shelf and heard it ping. I didn't ask why it was logged into my iCloud, because asking is sometimes louder than silence. 3 months into my affair, I got a promotion. I tell myself I got it on merit, though I can hear you rolling your eyes again. Fine, maybe it was both. I was producing work like my life depended on it, because it did. The busier I looked, the more legitimate my absences felt. I came home giddy, carrying a bottle of sparkling wine I grabbed at the bodega, already composing an Instagram caption about women in leadership. Evan hugged me, lifted me a little, spun me half a turn like we were in a kitchen dance montage, and said, "I'm proud of you." He meant it. That's the part that still claws at me. He meant it while he was also building his exit. He said he wanted to throw a party to celebrate. Not big. Just family and close friends, some of my coworkers, a few of our neighbors. He had this idea about doing it at a small gallery a friend of his managed. White walls, good lighting, nothing too fancy, but it would feel special. We could make a night of it, he said. Print photos from the last year, the good ones, put them up like an exhibit. Ear of Tessa, he smiled when he said it. He used to joke that my love language was attention. I said yes. Of course I said yes. Party that was about me. A curated night with candles and canapes and people saying out loud that I was moving up in the world. It felt like a balm over the bruise I was ignoring. I told Rafe about the party. Not the details, just that I'd be busy that weekend, that my husband was doing something sweet that he could text me Monday. He sent back a selfie from his gym with a smirk that said he didn't take any of it seriously. I sent him a photo of the black dress I was thinking of wearing and asked which shoes would make men stop talking mid-sentence. He said the red ones because of course he did. This is the level I had slid to, crowdsourcing my marriage night outfit with the man I was using to feel 15 again. The week of the party, Evan was extra Evan. He had lists and backup plans in his spreadsheet for seeing, because he wanted to make sure my aunt didn't get stuck next to my boss who used to teach debate. He ordered a cake with lemon curd, because I once said lemon curd felt like sunshine you could eat. The night before, he stayed up late, taping small gold clips to fishing line to hang the photos evenly. He asked me to send him my favorite shots from the year. The messy candids, not just the curated ones. And I did. I scrolled through my camera roll and grabbed breakfast, a hike where we got lost, and laughed. A blurry selfie where he is making a face that looks like a potato and I am crying from laughter. I skipped everything that might betray my other life because of course I did. I sent them, and he texted back a heart and a perfect. If you've ever been inside a trap you didn't know was a trap until it snapped, you know the way hindsight comes as a flood. The gallery looked beautiful when we arrived. Evan had hung strings of warm bulbs high across the room so it felt like being inside a secret for grown-ups. Vases with eucalyptus branches that smelled expensive dotted the tables. People drifted in. Kissed my cheek, handed me flowers, said things like you earned this and don't forget us little people. My parents were there early, because my mother believes punctuality is a religion. My boss arrived with 2 VPs in tow. Our neighbors came. The ones from across the hall who once fed our cat when we had that plumbing disaster. It was a well-mixed crowd of people who knew different versions of me, all in one room, and I took a small breath of the attention like it was medicine. The photos on the walls were all me and us. Me presenting at a meeting, Evan and me holding styrofoam cups at a roadside diner on the way to see his parents. Me in a ridiculous poncho in a sudden downpour, our living room overloaded with plants after I decided I wanted a jungle in December. People pointed and told stories. I floated. Evan made sure everyone had a drink. Around 9, he tapped the glass with a spoon one time, like the way you see in movies, and said, "Can I have your attention?" He looked a little nervous, which made sense. He doesn't like speaking in front of crowds. He started by talking about me, in the way Evan talks. Plain and clear and exact. How when we met I argued about which city had better bagels. How I have a laugh that makes strangers turn to see who told the joke. How I make everything feel like it can be improved by 10% if you just try. He said he was proud of me. He said it like a fact. He said we should all get used to hearing my name followed by director because it was coming. People clapped. I felt my face flush in the good way. He squeezed my hand and then, very gently, let it go. "Also," he said, and the word had the weight of a shift, "I like to measure things." A few coworkers laughed because they know Evan. He measures his coffee beans to the gram. He measures the distance between the couch and the TV based on optimal viewing angles. He measures like other people breathe. "I've spent the last year measuring our days," he said. Not in a creepy way, and people laughed again, but in the way you measure something precious, so you notice when the rhythm changes. He glanced at me then. Not angry. Not triumphant. Just steady. This past spring, their rhythm changed. There is a sound rooms make when people go quiet at the same time. It's not silence. It's the sound of attention settling. I felt it. My stomach did the thing where it drops and rises at once. It would be easy to pretend I didn't know what was coming. It would be easy to be the shocked wife and say, "Evan, what are you doing?" and storm out in offended tears. But when you have built a second life inside your body recognizes the moment both houses collapse. He lifted a small remote and pointed it at the wall opposite the bar. A projector hummed alive. For a second, it was a photo of me and Evan from our living room, my feet on his lap, a bowl of popcorn between us. Then the next slide was a calendar view. My calendar, our shared family calendar we barely used. Tuesdays. Dinners. The word client repeated like a metronome. He clicked again. A map appeared with pins at 3 locations I recognized as hotels. Dates. Times. Room charges. My throat burned. I heard my mother exhale a small "oh." I wanted to turn and say something, anything, but I was fixed in place with everyone else. Evan clicked and a photo appeared. Me exiting a hotel lobby with a man, our heads bent close. It wasn't explicit. There were no bodies, no stolen bedroom windows. Just 2 people who had no reason to be that familiar at that hour. Another slide. Me in the back of a rideshare. Profile with my hand in my hair. Timestamp overlapping with another charge on a corporate card from a restaurant that wasn't where I said I'd been. Another screenshot of texts, not the worst ones. Not the words that would have turned the room into a crime scene, but enough. My contact name cut off at raw. Like the phone had tried to keep his name private. Mind me, Bubble said. Room's the same as last time. That one did the most damage because of how ordinary it was. Continuity is proof. It took me a while to collect these, Evan said, voice slow and even, because I wanted to be sure. Our state is a false state. I didn't know that until I needed to know. My boss swallowed. I heard it. Someone set a glass down too hard and it chimed. I hired a professional, he went on. I felt gross doing it. I still do. But I don't believe in going to war without a map. He turned and looked at me then with the same expression he uses when he sees a storm coming across a lake. Steadied, a little sad, already building the plan. Tessa, this is me saying I see the whole picture. I could have said I was sorry. I could have said please. Later, please. I could have smashed the remote or pulled the cord or sprinted into the night in my red shoes. I stood there. I thought about the way Rafe never loaded the dishwasher at my place the one time he came by pretending to be a coworker dropping off files. I thought about the time Evan noticed my phone battery had a different drain pattern on meeting nights and didn't say anything. I thought about how I had been walking on a wire I fashioned out of excuses while Evan built a bridge under me for when I fell, only he chose not to finish it because maybe I needed to learn the drop. He didn't keep us in that room longer than he had to. He clicked to a final slide. No screenshotted words, just a simple scanned letter with a law firm header and my name. "I filed 2 weeks ago," he said. "You'll be served Monday." He looked out at our guests then and said something that made it both better and worse. "I didn't plan to say this in front of all of you. I planned to tell her quietly. But the invitations were out, and I didn't want to humiliate anyone with a last-minute cancellation and vague excuse. So here we are." He thanked everyone for coming. He asked them kindly to give us a few minutes. People shuffled, stunned, some pretending to check their phones. My boss squeezed my shoulder like I'd just lost a job, and in a way I had. My mother looked at her shoes, eyes down. My father was red at the collar. Our neighbors disappeared like smoke. No one yelled. No one called me names. It was worse than if they had. Polite silence can cleave a person in half. When the room emptied to the sidewalk, and the gallery was left with only the smell of eucalyptus and sugar and shame, Evan handed me a manila envelope. "You'll be fine," he said, simple as a weather report. "You're good at landing on your feet." It was almost kind. It felt like a clean cut. I said, "I'm sorry." The words were small and late, and if they were birds, they would have hit the window pane and fall into the sill. He nodded. "I know." He didn't say he forgave me. I think he doesn't. I think forgiveness is a thing he saves for people who made a mistake without turning it into a hobby. He walked me to the door like I was a guest who had stayed a little too long. On the sidewalk, we stood a foot apart, and I noticed his tie was slightly off-center. This is the stupidity of memory. You latch onto a loose thread because the sweater is too big to name. I said, "You planned all this?" He said, "I planned for what happens next." He'd already moved his bonus to an account I wasn't on. He'd already talked to a lawyer about the house. Our prenup. Mine felt flimsy and cute when we signed it because we were in love, and money felt like a future problem. Suddenly looked like a machine designed for this moment. I had put my thumb on the scale against myself today. I walked into a hotel and set a room number I had no business knowing. Monday came. A woman I didn't know knocked at my office door and handed me a packet like it was a pizza. And Art emailed me an hour later to ask if I had 5 minutes to chat. Because I am not completely stupid, I had already drafted my resignation. It's amazing how quickly a reputation can slip out the side door when you open a window for it. Word gets around in my industry, and you don't have to spell out a fare with a vendor for people to smell smoke and decide not to sit by your desk. Ray, he turned out to be precisely who he presented as. He sent a single text that said, "Yikes. Lay low." Then a week later, he was back to posting his shoulders and his smoothies and a new woman's crossed legs at his balcony table. I watched the story flicker by and hated myself for how unsurprised I felt. I had never been special there. I had been a plotline he liked for a season. If there's revenge in this story, it's the part where the man who made me feel alive felt like a photograph left in the sun until all the bright colors turned beige. People ask me, in that careful voice they use when they want gossip without looking cruel, whether I think what Evan did was right. I don't know how to answer without sounding like I want to rewrite the rules after losing. He didn't scream. He didn't throw anything. He didn't leak private photos. He didn't even show the worst of my words. He showed just enough truth to counteract my talent for denying it. He let the facts walk themselves into the light, and then he stepped aside. He knows how to build a system and let it run. He built one to set himself free. Sometimes I try to tally where the moment was when I could have set a different course. Was it the first drink? The first lie? The first time I said we about my career and meant me and a man who wasn't my husband? Or was it 1,000 smaller moments like leaving my phone face down and pretending that's what respecting privacy looks like? Everyone thinks their life is a movie, and they'll see the plot twist coming. In my movie, the twist wasn't that I got caught. The twist was that the man I thought of as boring turned out to be braver than me. He didn't claim, he didn't chase, he didn't bargain. He measured the truth and chose himself. I live in a small apartment now, the kind with a window that looks at another window, where you can smell your neighbor's garlic at dinner and their laundry soap on Sundays. My couch is secondhand, and the coffee table wobbles if I put both feet on it. which I do anyway because there's no one here to tell me not to. I ride the bus to a job that isn't a step up but keeps the lights on. I buy plants and keep most of them alive. Sometimes I wake up at 2 a.m., convinced I hear Evan making coffee in the kitchen, and then realize the sound is the radiator whispering like old paper. I wish I could say the loneliness taught me something profound. Mostly, it taught me that I'm not special enough to be above consequences. I don't stalk Evan online. That's the kind of sentence people say when they do stalk, so I won't pretend I never peeked. I did at first, hungry and panicked, the way you prod a sore tooth with your tongue. There's a photo of him on a hike with someone whose face is turned away, hair tucked in a beanie. He looks happier than he did the year I was busy making us both miserable. He looks. This sounds silly. Taller. Maybe that's what happens when you're not waiting to be lied to. I hope he's okay. I hope he buys the nicer coffee without feeling like he has to explain the budget. I hope his socks match most days, and he still whistles that tuneless song while he makes pancakes. I hope someone laughs so hard with him they cry. I used to be that person. I let it fall through my fingers because attention glittered and I mistook glitter for gold. The night of the gallery is the memory that replays with the sharpest edges. The exact pitch of the glass ting when he tapped it. The citrus and sugar smell of the cake. The way the projector fan hummed a beat steady as a metronome while the truth arranged itself on the wall like evidence in a silent courtroom. People keep talking about the cruelty of public humiliation, like it's an easy verdict. I don't know. Was it humiliating? Yes. Did he do it to hurt me? I don't think so. I think he did it to stop me from spinning a new story on top of the old one. He didn't leave any room for me to become a martyr. He left me exactly as I was, a woman who made choices, who thought she could stay charming and untouchable forever. If you think that's cruelty, that's fair. If you think it's justice, that's fair too. If I could go back, I wouldn't ask for forgiveness first. I would ask for the ordinary hunger I used to have for our life. The hunger that made me excited to text him a photo of a crooked open sign on a bakery and plan a Saturday. I would ask to be content with a man who never once let my gas tank dip below a quarter without leaving $20 and a note on the counter that said, "Fill up, please." Put that in a movie and people yawn. Put it in a marriage and it's the thing that keeps you from needing applause from strangers. I stepped off a solid floor because I wanted to hear clapping. I landed on concrete. This isn't a redemption arc. I'm not sitting here telling you I learned my lesson and now I'm a saint. I am telling you that the lesson exists whether I learn it cleanly or trip over it again and again. The lesson is small and simple and annoyingly unsexy. You don't get to be two people without losing both. Evan didn't take revenge with fire. He took revenge with clarity. He didn't trap me. He removed the comfortable dark and let me see the room. And then he walked out the door and closed it behind him so I could sit in the light by myself and decide who I want to be next. Sometimes, late, I think about the party if it had gone the other way. If there had been no projector, only photos of dogs and breakfasts and hikes. If Evan had raised his glass and said, "To my wife, who keeps finding more sky," would I have stopped? Would I have gone home and told Rafe to lose my number and begged to go to counseling, then deleted every app that made me feel like the celebrity in a room of 3? Maybe. Maybe not. The truth is, the humiliation might have saved more than it destroyed. I can't reshape the past into a version that flatters me. I can only tell it to you straight and hope that the telling counts for something. If you recognize yourself in me, I'm not going to lecture you. I'm going to say, choose before someone else chooses for you. If you're lucky, the person you're betraying is as kind as Evan and as strong. If you're unlucky, they'll be cruel. Either way, the bill comes due. I walked past that little gallery last week. They'd changed the exhibit. Bright abstract canvases, nothing like photos. The window was open a crack and you could hear music, something jazzy, happy in a way that didn't feel like mockery. I stood there for a minute and thought about the night my life split cleanly into before and after. I wanted to hate the place. I wanted to spit on the sidewalk or scrawl something petty in the dust on the glass. Instead, I tucked the flyaway strand of hair behind my ear twice, like I do when I'm nervous, and smiled at myself for noticing. You don't get to ache your gestures just because you wish you were a different story. You become a different story by living differently. I went home. I watered the plants. I made pancakes badly and burned the first one, laughed, and ate it anyway. If this is my confession, then let me end it the way Evan would, with a measurement. There are 36 steps from my door to the bus stop. There are 4 cracks in the sidewalk I step over because superstition is allowed when you're rebuilding. There are 2.5 minutes between the corner deli and my building if I jog, which I do when it rains. There is 1 dress with a rip hem in my closet I can't bring myself to fix because it feels honest that it's damaged. There is 0 chance that I will ever again mistake attention for love. I know this like I know the taste of lemon curd, and the sound of a glass tapped once to quiet a room. Some things you don't unlearn. You wanted the ending where the guy wins. He did. He kept the house. He kept his dignity. He kept his calm. He kept the part of himself that I used to love most. His refusal to be sloppy with the truth. He didn't just win because of a courtroom or a prenup or a projector. He won because he chose himself. Why wouldn't choose us? He walked out clean. If there's a moral to my mess, it's this: sometimes the cruelest revenge is simply walking away with your head up while the person who tried to juggle 2 lives is left holding both and dropping them over and over in an empty room. And if you're wondering whether I'd ever send him this story, no, he doesn't need it. He lived it. But I will say the thing I should have said years ago to anyone who needs to hear it now. If you have to hide it, it isn't love. If you have to take a bow for it, it isn't worth losing your future over. If you're measuring how many times you can get away with everything, someone else is measuring too. And if he's anything like Evan, he'll let the numbers speak in a room full of witnesses, and you'll nod because there's nothing left to say.